And as reporters, we need to gather news in order to disseminate that to the public. But there are times when we run up against questions of whether access becomes trespass. And let's see about the circumstances there. Access is how we get our information. So it's the documents, the records, the people we talk to. And in fact, the court has said, just as Powell's quoted here, that unless journalists have some protection and the ability to obtain information, the First Amendment, for all intents and purposes, is toothless. Now, the challenge, though, is that the First Amendment only guarantees the right to disseminate information. It doesn't guarantee the right to collect it. So the press actually doesn't get any more or less opportunity to have availability and access to places or documents or circumstances than the general public would. As these laws don't single out the press, then they can be applied to the press. Now, we have the quote here from U.S. versus Matthews that the First Amendment does not grant the press automatic relief from laws of general application. The circumstances here were a reporter was gathering information that included child pornography, and he said that was for a story that he was working on, but because it is illegal to get child pornography online for the average person, it's certainly illegal for the press at the same time. So this understanding that we don't necessarily have more rights to get information or access things or go places just because we're members of the media. You know, going on people's property without permission is trespassing. So if this is something that is not open and accessible to the general public and you go there, it's very difficult to claim reporting as is giving you the right to do that. So people who have the right to give you or deny you access to their private space. Now, there are is ability to go in public spaces and gather information, but it's important that you understand what the laws are as they relate to people's ability to sustain their own space. We did have a case here with Desnick versus the American Broadcasting Company where we had a couple Primetime Live reporters went into the Desnick Eye Center. They asked for permission to shoot the program, and while they were discussing that, they actually had already sent people in with hidden cameras to pose as patients. And the show took these recordings of these patient exams and they used them and they aired it, and the Eye Center ended up claiming that it was trespassing. But really, this was still public space, and consent was deemed to have existed even though it was gotten through fraud. So the fact that this doctor had agreed they could come in, although not particularly in this way, there was no evidence that this was trespassing. And journalists and other private citizens have accompanied law enforcement officials in doing their jobs. I've gone on ample ride-alongs, and I've actually been with police while they've served search warrants and things like that. This comes into question of this idea of balancing rights again. So the First Amendment versus the Fourth Amendment, which is unreasonable search and seizure. There were challenges in the 80s related to like a fire department resuscitation gone bad that was caught on film, and it was broadcasted because they were being followed by a crew. They were sued for trespass. Is there a First Amendment right to trespass? And, you know, really this is the key case that would outline that. It's Hanlon versus Berger from 1998, where this search warrant was issued for these people's ranch. A bunch of officers went out there. They included reporters from CNN. Those reporters were allowed to be with them when they executed the search warrant, and the Bergers filed a suit saying that this violated their Fourth Amendment rights. And the court said yes, that the possibility of good relations by having the media ride along with you is not enough to justify the intrusion into a private home.